Maybe I shouldn't have downloaded Howard the Duck from Free Movies or Us. Definitely trustus.org. Kind of seems really obvious now.
Howard the Duck.
Ever gone on Wikipedia and seen the list of films they consider the worst? That's where I first heard of Howard the Duck. Most of the films on the list are just enjoyably bad. They're not really the worst films on the planet. They're memorable. But Howard the Duck? Mac and Me, The Room, Birdemic. See, those are three movies that they're enjoyably bad. Because while they're unintentionally funny, they're also well-paced enough where it doesn't ever become boring, and by the end of the movie, you're not tricked into thinking it's good, but you still think, that was funny enough. It was funny. They're funny movies. Howard the Duck tries so hard to be funny that it makes it worse. And it's really boring. There's nothing to the movie. It's really hard to watch. It's long, like hour and 50 minutes long, and I've seen it twice, so that's 3 hours and 40 minutes of my life that I'm never gonna get back. And then I bought the movie. Yeah, I bought the movie, so that's what, $10, $15, and it takes up space on my shelf. So I'm really, this movie is personally attacking me, and I need to get it out of my life. Apparently, the director Willard Hayek and Gloria Katz were good friends with the Star Wars and Phantom Menace creator Lucas, and he introduced them to Howard the Duck. He wanted to make a movie about the character because George Lucas does whatever he wants, which includes trying to attempt the first big screen adaptation of a Marvel comic. Yeah, for those who thought it was X-Men or even Blade, Howard the Duck was really the first to do it, and probably the main reason why it took 15 years for it to be done again, properly. And yeah, there was that Captain America serial in the 1940s, but the company wasn't even known as Marvel yet. No, this is the first full-length Marvel Comics movie. And, they would have made Iron Man even before X-Men, but I guess Robert Downey Jr. was really ignoring Kevin Feige in the 90s.
Jon Favreau and I sitting in his office with DVDs of Kiss Kiss Bang Bang going, he's pretty great. Should we do it? He's pretty...
She'll take both. One to throw away and one to not call.
The movie was going to be an animated film, but Universal had a huge summer slate to fill. Universal then looked towards someone they had overlooked in the past, but decided to trust this time because Star Wars. You think you can give us another Star Wars? How about Star Wars with ducks? So they invited Lucas over to Universal Studios and hatched the Howard the Duck film, quickly rushed into production for the 1986 film season, as a way to copy a successful film from the year before that everyone had totally forgotten. Now, if only Universal had a time machine where they could go back to 1986 and stop Howard the Duck from ever being made, but apparently they destroyed that ride for 90s nostalgia. Great. So Lucas convinced Hayek and Katz that they could make a suit, which would cost $2 million. Have you ever seen $2 million? Well, if you've seen the Howard the Duck costume, you've seen $2 million. Except I don't know what the exchange rate on that would be today. And to further copy the success of Back to the Future, they got Leah Thompson to be in the movie because, obviously, almost making love to your son is even funnier if your son is a duck.
Calvin Klein? Oh, it's written all over your underwear.
Intense animal magnetism.
Whoops. Anyway,
Nope.
where will it all lead?
Nope.
Kids?
Nope. No. No.
Houses?
No. No. Nope. No. No. Of course, I'd pay to see any movie where Michael J. Fox was playing a duck, but he was too busy making cars before cars existed. Also in this film is Andy Dufresne, probably a secret identity he had after escaping Shawshank. And while I will say that Leah Thompson is trying her best and is easily the best part of this movie, Tim Robbins is probably at his worst. I'll just leave it at that.
Undoubtedly one of Earth's greatest minds here.
John Landis actually turned down the offer to direct this film, thinking the climax was too similar to Blues Brothers. Apparently he was fine with the rest of the script. He will be directing the sequel though, Howard the Duck 2000, which will have Howard replaced by Daffy Duck. Then his son Max will be writing the spin-off where Howard finds a mysterious crater and gains superpowers and subsequently goes insane. So the film opened and it was a tremendous and spectacular flop. Well, hopefully their next summer picture for 1987 will be a lot more successful. I'm sure Universal is missing the days when their aliens were E.T. and not ducks. I think the whole film and my confusion can be summed up with one scene.
I got a feeling you're gonna take to this job like a duck to water.
The movie opens on a duck planet that must be somewhat close to Tatooine. This is probably the most famous scene in the movie, but it's so odd that it needs to open on a planet of ducks. Why not just open on Earth and have a talking duck? It would be dumb, but not as dumb or expensive as this scene. Besides, when Leah Thompson runs into Howard, she's too accepting of him being a duck, and she's not even sure if they're on Earth. Is this Earth? Where am I?
Planet's called Earth, I think.
Is the Universal logo not really Earth, but a planet that happens to look like Earth, and the Universal letters are separate planets themselves? Oh yeah, and we're 30 minutes in, and nothing has happened. Howard tried to get a job, and then he quit it right away, so that made that scene pointless.
Maybe you should be our manager. Wait a second.
Oh yeah, sure, he...
Maybe you're just the kind of
He'd be a great manager, despite showing
No more jobs here.
zero talent. Oh yeah, I forgot. So, Leah Thompson is in a band, and they have a bad manager, so they want to have Howard as a manager, but this plotline is almost immediately forgotten to start a new plotline about getting Howard home and finding out how he got here, which includes a scene where Howard and Leah have a misunderstanding, and then they leave each other, but then they become friends again later anyway, and then Tim Robbins shows up, and then the principal from Ferris Bueller shows up, and he gets possessed, so maybe that explains why he's so obsessed with catching Ferris Bueller in Ferris Bueller, and Ferris Bueller was released in the same year, and why isn't there a Universal ride that's based on Ferris Bueller? I mean, it literally only have to be a Ferris wheel, and I guess it's because it's not really a Universal film. Oh, and the police want to catch Howard for some reason.
How the hell am I going to explain a manhunt for a duck?
It's a duck hunt.
Okay, so the principal from Ferris Bueller gets possessed because the device to reach Howard's planet brings in these strange creatures, one of which is the Dark Overlord, and I don't know why any of this happens, but someone thought this was all okay, apparently.
I'm afraid I'm about to become something else.
Oh, great. Like a sex change or something.
Oh yeah, exactly like a sex change, and with that, he probably can't use the bathroom he identifies with either, could he?
Of all the alleys in the world I could have fallen into that night, why did it have to be yours? Freeze!
I am now someone else.
Try telling that to your insurance company.
You know, I long for the days when, ducks were funny. They would be all cartoony and yelling verbal spasms and, also possibly be a Nazi. Now we have insurance jokes. So eventually there is a big chase between cars and cops and a plane and two Blues Brothers and a limo and a puppy car and hot air balloon and a I Love Lucy fan club and a crazy professor and an ice cream bike, which goes on for about 20 minutes. And believe me, I fell asleep during this scene. I think like 20 minutes went by. 20 freaking minutes. And I think they were still doing the chase 20 minutes later. And I don't even really sure I get it. So they're flying a prototype plane and being chased by cops? It doesn't really make sense to me. And I guess the movie's almost over. There's that. There's about... Ugh. They reach some laboratory, stop Jones's plan from succeeding, then the alien escapes from inside him, even though the alien said earlier that they need human bodies to exist on Earth. And Howard destroys the alien, then makes the difficult choice, either destroy the machine that can bring Howard home and make sure no more aliens reach Earth, or letting the aliens reach Earth for selfish reasons. And he picks the latter, and so he goes home, and then all the aliens ravage the planet. The end.
So we're building various ducks, and the ducks are constantly exploding.
What? An overly ambitious filmmaker attempting to make an over-budget duck movie that results in exploding animatronics. Okay, that is a movie I would pay to watch. And besides the kind of cool stop-motion effects on the aliens, I mean, stop-motion effects are always pretty cool, this movie can really be blamed for one thing, and that's... it's the reason Pixar Animation Studios exists. I am not kidding. George Lucas was already in the black after his divorce, and when he wasn't helping his other divorced friend make depressing Indiana Jones movies, he was putting money in the projects that had no success. And this ended up being the crowning achievement of box office abominations. Because of this, Lucas had to sell assets in order to save his company, which included a little startup known as Pixar Animation Studios. He sold it to a young millionaire named Steve Jobs, and they went on to have one of the greatest streaks in Hollywood. Kind of funny actually, because Pixar ended up being bought by Disney, and now Lucasfilm is owned by Disney. Lucasfilm made the first Marvel film, and Disney also owns Marvel. You know, Marvel has been having a lot of successes lately. I mean, one of their biggest surprise successes was Guardians of the Galaxy. Here's the thing about Guardians of the Galaxy. They have a song in their movie called Cherry Bomb, and in the movie Howard the Duck, Leah Thompson's band is called Cherry Bomb. I don't know why I find that interesting. I guess because they're both Marvel properties. You know what else is weird is the three actors in the movie, Tim Robbins and Leah Thompson, and then the last one, Jeffrey Jones. They're all known for other movies, like way more famous for other movies. You know, one is Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the other one's Back to the Future, and the other one is Shawshank Redemption. And those are three movies that haven't been remade and have never been talked about being remade in a place where every single movie is getting remade nowadays. I think that's really interesting. Howard the Duck actually makes an appearance in Guardians of the Galaxy, and he's voiced by Seth Green, who was in Family Guy, which was sued by Disney for the episode When You Wish Upon a Weinstein. And the Weinsteins have a really tight bond with Quentin Tarantino, who has a tight bond with Samuel L. Jackson, who stars in tons of Marvel films. And Seth Green, he's also in Robot Chicken, and they've done a bunch of parodies of Star Wars, and Disney owns Star Wars. Howard is a duck from a Marvel comic, and Donald Duck has been in Disney Comics, who starred alongside Warner Brothers' Daffy Duck and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, starring Bob Hoskins, who was in Super Mario Bros. The movie, which was based on the game that was almost always paired with Duck Hunt, a game that is mentioned in Howard the Duck. Howard the Duck was made in 1986, and Batman v Superman premiered nearly 30 years later on March 19th, and the final box office gross began with the numbers 8 and 6. Howard the Duck was released on August 1st, and Guardians of the Galaxy was released 28 years later on the exact same date. And who turned 28 years old when Howard the Duck came out? Tim Robbins. That same year, he was in Top Gun, a movie that has Tom Cruise, who is in the Mission Impossible films. And doesn't it seem almost impossible that Deadpool took this long to get released? It's because Marvel has been doing so well, a success that's been copied by DC, who made Batman v Superman, who stars Ben Affleck, who used to be in a lot of Kevin Smith movies, who works a lot with the Weinsteins, and then that one time Kevin Smith was talking about Prince during that little weird DVD he made. And Prince was in a movie for Warner Brothers in 1986 that tied with Howard the Duck for the Worst Picture Razzie Award. So is that any coincidence that 30 years later, a Marvel film and a DC film would be released so close to one another that would have so many similarities? 30 divided by the 6 actors who played Howard, and you get 5. And it was 5 years between the release date of Howard the Duck and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And the time between the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark and the release date of Howard the Duck is exactly 50, which just happens to be the age of Michael Jackson when he died, and Michael Jackson starred in Captain EO, another George Lucas produced film. Could it be that Howard the Duck is the center of the movie-making universe? Probably just a huge coincidence. Hey, does anyone want to see that guy from Rocky IV be the Punisher?
I hit him and they stayed down.